kind of like through his eyes, I kind of like see a world is much slower, but then the beauty of everything is magnified. So I guess that's, my husband said he is really a gift to us. And I think so, because he brings different lens to me, to my family, so that through his lens, we see a different world, which is much slower, but is much more beautiful. So I guess that's that is a really, really unique experience.
This week, I had the chance to talk to my good friend Bei Wang. Bei is an educator, cultural broker, and a metaverse explorer. I'm so grateful that Bei shared her personal story about the disability of her son Elias with all of us, and how this experience changed her and helped her to see the world through a different lens. It is such a beautiful story, and it touched me deeply. For entrepreneurs who are interested in China, Bei also shared some great tips and perspectives to help you navigate your business in China. I hope you will enjoy this conversation between two Chinese friends, and you will get value and insights for yourself and for your business. Hey, Bei, good morning.
Good morning.
So nice to see you here, and thank you so much to make time and efforts to come to my podcast. Thank you so much. Could you please introduce a little bit about yourself and about your work?
Yes. First of all, it's such an honor and a pleasure to join your podcast. I have been joining different podcasts since, I think, 2 years, but this one has a special position because I think we are also good friends. Very excited. About myself, my name is Wang Bei, or people call me Bei in the Netherlands. I'm Chinese origin. I moved to the Netherlands exactly 22 years ago, the millennial year, 2000. My background, maybe I'd like to introduce more about who I am. I'm happily married for 20 years. My husband is Dutch. We have 2 beautiful boys. They are both like in their teenage year. One is 15, the other is 12, Daniel and Elias. At the same time, I've always been a very, very busy working mom. I have never worked one day like less, so always full-time working. My background is in mainly media and communication. My first job in the Netherlands was in Greenpeace International. After 4 years working in Greenpeace International, I joined the Dutch National Broadcasting, Radio Netherlands Worldwide. I became the head of China department. I worked there for almost 8 years as the chief editor, journalist, as well as program director, but also like business developments, etc. So after working in these big organizations for several years, I wanted to do something on my own. So in 2015, I became a freelancer, specializing in media and communication. I did a lot of projects for public sector, private sector, NGO, government organization. But at the same time, I also got the chance to become a real entrepreneur. I met my business partner, Christian Eisberg, around 2015, and we started a consulting firm. It's quite a small one. We call it boutique consulting, but we take on quite big projects. It's called 5 Degrees. Actually, it's based on what we are familiar with, the 6 degrees of separation. So the name comes from 6 degrees of separation. The idea is to really like help Western business, European business, entering China. Our tagline was, we help you navigate digital China. During the consulting career, I also developed a lot of skills of, for example, develop workshop, develop teaching and learning programs. That was also the moment I discovered my interest in education field. because helping companies educating their management team, it's a form of teaching and educating. So in 2019, I joined Hogeschool Utrecht University of Applied Sciences. The program is called Creative Business, which is really close to what I've been doing in my professional career. So I become also a part-time university teacher. So yeah, one leg in entrepreneurship world, the other leg in university. It's a very unique positioning because I basically can also bring practice to the academic field, but also bring a kind of mindful research mentality into the business world. And long story short, fast forward, we all got influenced by COVID. So in 2020, we had to change our business from 5 degrees to some new direction because our business was influenced a big time by the COVID. And that's when a new business was born called StraightFire. So at this moment, I'm the co-founder and co-owner of StraightFire Studios, and I'm still continuing my education job. It's a long introduction, but it kind of tells how I get today's point. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Bei. It's really very impressive career path. As friends, I know a lot of personal story of you. Your personal story is so inspiring for me and really also touched me when I met you. Do you mind to share a little bit about your personal journey?
Yeah, that's the best part I like to tell. Just now I talked, sounds like I'm giving a rundown of my CV, but I like to talk about my past and also my whole personal life experience. I grew up in a very liberal environment, even though I was born in the late 70s. So my childhood in China, I would say China wasn't that rich. We were relatively poor. But I think for me, my parents, they are both intellectuals. And they are very liberal, and that was a very nice growing up surroundings. My mom speaks English and French. My father is an electric engineer, and they're both very open-minded people. So and that gave me a very different, unique experience on my childhood. So they're very supportive. Of course, all the Asian parents, they expect a lot from their kids, achieve great future and good grades, go to prestige schools. But my parents has never really vocally addressing that because they just give me a lot of inspiration. So they brought me a lot of literature, novels from the Western world. So I grew up by reading a lot of English literature, European literature. Actually, I told everyone in my childhood, we were not that rich, but my parents saved a lot of money. They bought me a piano. So I had a piano as a child before we even have a refrigerator at home. I think piano kind of opened up also my world. And then, in my middle school and university, I was also experiencing all kind of exciting things extracurriculum. For example, I was the member of a theater group, and I was also in a band of, because I play piano, so I play keyboard. So I even had my rock and roll band. So sometimes I'm thinking that was a very unique childhood. Also in the 90s in China. And I wanted to study abroad, and I want to study European studies. That was also quite unique that I got my parents' blessing, because in our generation, I think a lot of Chinese young people, they study business or maybe computer science. And I just remained studying liberal arts, which is something considered as relatively useless, but it's very interesting. So I was very lucky. I came to the Netherlands. I studied European studies. And then I was even luckier when I met my like now we're happily married. I introduced my husband. He's Dutch. He was an art academy student. We also got my parents' blessing. And we got a very beautiful son, and everything went on really, really like smoothly, I would say. And I have always been very ambitious because I like to do a lot of things. And I think I'm a person with a lot of interests. I am still today, but I was very, very ambitious. I want to achieve a lot of things. I want to try a lot of things. I even like to plan a lot of things. I think until my second child was born. And that was the part that I have been very, very open. My second child, Elias, he's 12 now. I said he's 12, but actually he's also like 2 or 3. The reason is because he was born with a very rare genetic disorder. So it's in his chromosome. So he was born very small. We didn't really know what happens. And after several months, we got the diagnosis that one of his, because our chromosome is like in pair. So the chromosome on his 5th chromosome, one part is like breaking, which means that it kind of like caused a genetic disorder. Well, it sounds very medical and scientific, but just to explain it simply, that he is a child born with disability, in the sense of he has a learning delay and a major development delay. And that's why I said he's 12, like in his real age, but now he has a development phase about 2 or 3 year old. You can compare it with a severe form of Down syndrome, but at the same time, it's not entirely likely because this syndrome is called Cray-Duchar, or the 5th chromosome disorder. It's very rare. Well, the whole incident, it caused a huge impact in my life. I can talk about it very easily. I truly can, but if I really look back upon 12 years ago, or even like the first 3 years since he was born, has been really difficult because of, everyone wants to have a perfect child. And then, he is a special child. In the beginning, special means difficult, huge challenge, or even something really negative. But that's another long story. I experienced a lot of personal, emotional up and downs. I was depressed. I seek help. Again, long story short, after 3 years, things got better. But actually, I have to say, raising a child with special needs is actually a lifelong challenge. But at the same time, sometimes we said, okay, we as human, we like to pursue some kind of lifelong soul searching or mindfulness. So for me, myself, but also for my family, it's a lifelong journey to explore. Okay, we will constantly have challenge, but at the same time, it's also a journey of discovery, in the sense of Elias turned out to be physically healthy, in the sense of he doesn't have a lot of like really big disease, like in his heart or his lung, or he doesn't have that. He still needs to sit in a wheelchair, but he started to walk better and better. And the biggest challenge is that his communication. He has major delay in talking, but at the same time, kind of, I have to say, raising him in the last 12 years I always get, because we like to read a lot of inspiration. One of my biggest like inspiration, and it's a term, is the silver lining. The silver lining of everything. Because for me, the silver lining is, okay, because of Elias, I started to develop patience, because with a child developed so slow, so extremely slow, that you started to look at things differently. In the past, I had this almost like OCD, like, oh, everything has to reach this milestone in that year. But since he was born, and dealing with him and also dealing with my own emotion, I kind of developed more and more thinking, okay, slow down, really like slow down, because we see he's developing, but extremely slow. But at the same time, I'm thinking, but as long as he's making progress, as long as he is really like building up his new skills, so the whole kind of time span is not that important anymore. And then, of course, at the same time, I have all these reflections, thinking, okay, we talk about lifelong learning. So as we so-called normal people, we have to have lifelong learning. So Elias will be like developing lifelong. So yeah, for me, then he is actually, after all these years, he is a perfect child, because he's happy. He is he's in the Dutch word, lekker in zijn vel. I think that is the most important thing. He's always really happy and enjoying himself. And the most importantly, my husband says something, I think till today, I really feel like, oh, that also proved that we are really soulmates. When Elias was born, my husband, Martin, he said, okay, he was born as a minus. So if we talk about life, so then every progress is a plus. So in that case, you started to feel like, okay, that is a really, really nice journey. And again, like I said, it's the silver lining of everything. Yeah. So he changed my way of thinking. So I really learned how to slow down in everything. And another biggest learning is because he developed so slowly. For example, he started to talk about the first time he said mom is when he was 3. First time he sit up when he was 2.5. So comparing with normal child, this is like really delayed. But for me, actually, it becomes even more kind of exciting and treasure and then special. So I started to feel like, okay, he kind of like teach us to appreciate those tiny like bliss of happiness, and then started to really see, because he's now like a very happy person, and then he likes to go out, and then he still keeps saying, every time he see a sunshine, he said, wow. Or every time he see a tree, he keeps saying boom, boom, like tree in the boom in the, Dutch. It's the Dutch word. And then every time now we have the autumn, he likes to pick up the like leaves all the time and then observe it. I kind of like through his eyes, I kind of like see a world is much slower, but then the beauty of everything is magnified. So I guess that's, yeah, my husband said he is really a gift to us. And I think so, because he brings different lens to me, to my family, so that through his lens, we see a different world, which is much slower, but is much more beautiful. So I guess that's, that is a really, really unique experience.
Yeah, what a beautiful story, Bei. Thank you for sharing this.
Thank you.
I still remember when I met you many years ago, and you shared that moment with me, and you told me, when he said "mom," it was just magical. It was just such a magical moment for you, and you will never forget. Yes. And I think you also said, hey, Elias has really shaped your beliefs and
Yeah,
really
for sure.
reshaped your life.
Yeah.
So what are the beliefs which are totally shifted?
Like I said, that I was very lucky. My parents, even though they don't really like vocally say, "Oh, success," but I think I grew up in a society, as we all know, like in China, in East Asia, you grow up in a society like, okay, be successful, be achieving like a prestige. To be honest, before Elias was born, I haven't really, I just feel like, okay, I tell everyone I'm an ambitious person. I want to be successful, but I really don't really know what success means. Because for us, like success means probably like go to renowned university, go to like Fortune 500 company or international company, have a title of this. I think it was all defined by this, like this social norm, or this kind of like, there's this certain kind of, yeah, prestige kind of definition. So for me, and I have to say, even though I back then I said that I don't really care about what external said, I think I did care a lot, because I was thinking, okay, I had a master's degree, maybe I should pursue. I got my master's degree in University of Amsterdam, but deep inside, I still remembered. I was like, okay, I should probably go to the United States. I should still get pursue a degree from Ivy League or something. So you still have those in your head. And then when after Elias was born, and I focused really on keeping a balance of raising him and doing my job, because I was back then working in the media. I guess that for me, I kind of like, it shapes a lot about also, yeah, what defines your goal and what defines your own like satisfaction or achievement. I do think that Elias makes me more confidence, because like I just said, that in the past, maybe I wasn't vocally say that, but I still have this like very traditional kind of mindset, like a lot of people thinking, okay, success is defined by what university you go to, what title you have, what or that will also define your happiness, because as an ambitious woman, my happiness is based on if I'm successful in career. But I think since Elias, that I feel like my goal and everything becomes much smaller. And also before that, before Elias was born, I have also feel like, because I worked for Greenpeace, I worked for in the media, I even have this huge ambition, like, I want to change the world. I want to, so it was, everything is very big. It's very big, but sometimes it's very blurry. But after Elias was born, and I decided to learn also sign language to help with him to communicate. And I see that he is developing. And then I met also some other mothers with children with like special needs. So we had this community, cross-cultural community. It's called Holland Care. So me and together with some parents in China, we started to develop a form just like self-help. And then the whole process also gives me thinking, okay, I don't need to save the world. I don't need to change like hundreds of people. If I can change myself, or if I can influence maybe 5 people, or if 5 moms in our group that they feel better, that's for me is success. So for me, I guess that I'm still ambitious, but it's defined not by the quantity of what you achieve, but more by the quality.
Yeah, so beautifully said, Bei. I still remember when I asked you, when before we had this interview, I asked you whether you mind that I ask some questions about Elias. You just said, "Oh, please do that because he is my inspiration." I think through this process, we all immigrated from China to the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And as Chinese, and we came to live in this totally different country and with
Yeah.
totally different culture. Yeah, what's your general experience of living in this culture? How did you experience your
Yeah.
life to be a Chinese here?
Yeah, I think again, I as an individual, my personal life really also bring also a lot of advantage and disadvantage. Advantage, it's the sense that I was born and grew up in China, but I'm from a very liberal family, and I always see that my childhood in China, I got to have the context with the most liberal social movements because I studied in Shanghai. I studied in Fudan University, and back then we had one of the best dean in the Fudan history. So we were introduced to a lot of very interesting international, like intellectual exchange. We had like, for example, Kissinger also came to our school to give speech. I was doing theater. I was playing rock and roll music. So I also encountered a lot of like art and thinking like movements. So I learned about the whole like Western developments. And that gives me a lot of help because when I came to Netherlands, when I studied in the Netherlands, I noticed that what helps me to make friends is not my study, or it's not something like hardcore knowledge. It's all these hobbies I had in China because I played rock and roll, I was doing theater, I was watching a lot of movies. So I can build a really like fun and life with I once talked to some other friends, a Chinese friend back then. He was a very hardworking Chinese students, very, very good students, like a role model for many people. But all he knows is study, study, study. So he said to me like, oh, I feel difficult in really having a casual and social life because people talking about music or fun. And I said, exactly. But I had all these experience in China already. So that gave me a really good kind of like kickoff. So I always joke with a lot of people say, okay, if you really want your, I don't know how to say that in English. In China, when I was young, I did something a lot of people considered as 不务正业, which means it's like not the good business. You did something really like just like some hobbies, but it's those hobbies helped me to really get used to the life and also develop my career, because I noticed that the main difference is the Western world really require you have a very strong communication skill. Communication in the sense of like talking to people, but have cultural empathy, but also presentation skill. Because I did theater in China in the past. So I trained an actress. So I think for me, giving presentation has never been a difficult thing. So I guess all these helped me to navigate my life, but also navigate my career in Holland. Then with Elias, that as I just said, that Netherlands is one of the most like social welfare society in the world. We experience really, really good difference. It's not just the facilitation, but also the mentality, because we see like the society wants to be really tolerate of all kind of people and all kinds of communities. But of course, at the same time, I lived 22 years. You see the world has also been shifting. and changing with a lot of impact. I have to be honest that the first 10 years in the Netherlands, I do think that in terms of socio-economical development, Netherlands is really advanced. But the last 10 years, I think the world has a shift of power. Your impact, Netherlands is a tiny country within Europe. So it's influenced by European geopolitics, but also global geopolitics, and also global economic and social change. So you started to really see a lot of shift. I would say in the social welfare part, it is decreasing. I also heard a lot of people about like public health and insurance, the budgets from the public budget and subsidy from the governments and all these different policies. For me, I'm always really positive because I keep comparing with China, because China, the social welfare system hasn't been really developed, has been privatizing enormously. So I always said to people, for me, coming from a background with that you probably need to rely more on your family than the government on those caretaking for a special need kids. I'm very grateful, and I'm still grateful. Yeah. But I do think if I look at the future, because, for example, in the recent years, we discussed about the pension is decreasing, in pension funds decreasing, and also we have to work longer. I kind of like started to think maybe we when Elias is older, then he will not enjoying the really great like this social welfare package as maybe 20 years ago in the Netherlands. Yeah. But for me, I'm not going to cry on it because I guess it's because you and I, we are global citizens. We travel from one side of the world to another, and we meet people from different countries. So I have a very broad kind of view of thinking, okay, I don't, maybe that's also because I'm not born. I wasn't born in Netherlands. So I always see that, you know, you have one side of the world will rise, civilization will rise and they will fall. Country will rise and fall, and economically will rise and fall. So yeah, I just think that we just have to deal with it. Again,
yeah, sure.
Deal with it, yeah.
Through this process of the illness process of Elias, and you really experienced social welfare system of and because my sister had polio when I was young, when she was 3 years old. I have experienced this social welfare system in China. When I was a child, my parents didn't have any insurance. There was no insurance to cover the medical costs. Yeah. So my parents all need to work years to save all of their salary to have to pay for one operation of my sister to help her to stand up to work. So we turned our home into all kinds of factories and to raise pigs and to raise chickens and rabbits. I had 20 rabbits to take care of, to just to sell for money. And because we don't have this social welfare system. If you have a disabled child, everybody asked my parents, why not give her away? Because you cannot afford to help her to live a normal life. Yeah, and this is a choice of many Chinese parents facing this disabled problem. So I think, we are so lucky, and we can feel really grateful to be supported by the Dutch social welfare system in this aspect.
Yeah, I want to also add one important element, because a lot of people see me like involved in like digital innovation, digital technology, and they probably think that, okay, I'm all for technology advance. But to be honest, I guess like this podcast is the first time I really like talk so detailed about my personal life. I have been more and more vocal about humanity and humanistic side of development in many keynote speech, because I just came back from Web Summit, and there you see everything is about high tech, about the economic, about markets go up and down, or bull market, bear market. But I always feel like, okay, you hear a lot of talks saying, yeah, that's Asia is rising. America has always been very advanced in digital technology. Europe is really behind because in the last 20 years, Europe's digital technology development is lag behind comparing with Asia and US, for example. Yeah, that's true. But at the same time, if people really talk about what is the strengths of Europe, and I hope that it will be more and more in the major discussion and also on the key agenda, is the humanistic side of Europe. Because in the end, technology advance is to make our life better. But if technology is creating so much bias or a lot of like big gaps in the society of our like social life, then I think it's time to actually for us to think further, like maybe we should slow down.
Yeah.
Like, for example, recently you have all these stock shares like down with all the internet company worldwide, and the internet companies, they are firing a lot of people. Actually, I think that is not surprising, because in the last few years, the biggest brands and biggest companies in the world are mostly those internet companies. But those companies, they are the companies, they are really like monetized on data, monetized on digital technologies. But if everything is driven by technology and driven by profit, then in the end, I guess that we human will become oil, become engine to feed into this digital economy, which is very scary. Because now we already hear people talking about data is the new oil, but data is produced by us because we are human, we are using data. And then if you further think in this science fiction kind of scenario, it's almost like we become products. Well, it's actually for those social media or internet platforms, we are already products on it.
Yeah.
And I think that is going in the wrong direction. And that's why I want to get back to like thinking, okay, I started to use those terms also at school. It's like sometimes if we want to make also push the social change or make our social life better, we don't need high tech. Low tech, it's also solving those. But it's with this big, high, fast, all these extreme terms that is driving us. And I just think that, that is just the wrong direction. So that's why now I'm very glad we are talking about how we orient I really hope humanistic thinkings and humanity elements, especially from Europe, and a more like moral thinking, ethical thinkings, and will be more in the agenda and in the discussion about economic development or technological development, because that's highly needed and has been ignored or undermined for really long time.
As a university lecturer for creative business, you have a lot of students from all over the world. And do you also see certain kind of challenges we see in the society really become their struggles and of these young students?
I think one thing I think everybody is talking about is the mental health issue, because I think I truly see that happens among my students because of all the things happens in the last 5 years, especially. we have the global shift. Earlier, before the COVID, in the business world, we keep talking about VUCA, like volatile, and so it's a short form of like the paradigm shift of the world. But that was before the COVIDs. And then you see the shift of global power. Like I just said, you have different cultural, different market, different. And then in recent years, you have China versus America, used all in the media by all these like tech war, media war, economic war, using, people likes to use war, that words. And this year we have a real war in between Russia and Ukraine. And then before that, you have also this global pandemic. So many, and it influenced everyone. And for the younger generation, I guess that global pandemic, for all of them, they experienced this like lockdown and staying at home. And I think it's horrible for to impact there. And because they are young, so their mindset, their mental health is still in development. And with this kind of external kind of impact, of course, it's damage and also cause a lot of like issues. At the same time, I also feel like you see in the industries, in different sectors, there's also, like I said, it's almost, there's a lot of blurry kind of bubbles around here and there. Like I just said with Elias, my son's syndrome, the worst time was the time that he was, before he was diagnosed. And I think now everywhere I go, I feel like there's a lot of this kind of uncertainty and void. And this is something I got also really angry, because I feel like it's the so-called adult, because we are the adults, the people who are the stakeholders, the people are already from public sector to private sector, everyone is talking and the media is making it bigger. But the young people, they are still exploring. So you kind of bring to them a very blurry void, and then they already experienced that. And we don't need to keep telling them it's uncertain, it's unsure, it's changing. So that's why at school, I started to more and more emphasize on navigation skills. So I just want to tell the students like, okay, there's a lot of area starting to have a lot of noise, a lot of quarrels and debates and frictions, that maybe it's time for us to really like develop to be a good navigator in the sense of, so that in that case, I don't really build any, I don't like to make statements at class. I never do that. I always build framework in the sense of, because for me, framework is almost like you're starting to create those touch points so that students, they are able to feel something tangible. And I think that is highly needed, not only in the education world, but even maybe for all the business build. Because instead of, at the web summits, also I feel like there's a lot of big theoretical talk, but you hardly really see a clear shape of like problem solving, or are you building something concrete? On the contrary, there's a few small talks, not on the big stage, people sharing of some long-term talk. For example, I went to this session with Wikipedia founder, and he tells that because Wikipedia still remain like independent, and then he talks about the next project he's exploring, he's trying to build. And then I also went to the session with Comic-Con founder and even Second Life founder. I just think that they give me this idea that they are starting something small. They just be focused so that they show a framework and show a path. While there are some talk, it's just keep talking about big trends. I said, we don't need that, because big trends is everywhere is big trends. So I just I just think that now at school, we started to also like discuss, okay, how education program can help students. And I really feel like it's really important for people in the education world to really pinpoint the concrete things instead of keep using big words to because the world is noisy with big words.
It's such a beautiful word. I think it's so important, Bei. I totally agree. There's navigation skills you are trying to teach your students, because you need this skill to navigate your inner world and outer world. If you have the skill, then you know how to connect these dots. This is so important that the students learn the skills to navigate in this world, to shut down the noises which are not important to them, to make very conscious choices in their life. And I think it will really benefit their well-being and also benefit their developments.
Yes.
And they're so great that you as an educator and bring this concept into the education. I just want to ask you, Bei, listeners, maybe people from Western country or from the Netherlands, if they want to do business with China and if they want to connect with Chinese people, can you give them some general tips to prepare themselves for the future, for this, making this authentic connection?
Yeah, I was invited to actually recently to join a very interesting documentary, because we are currently under this very, very crucial moment of geopolitical conflicts. There's a lot of like big media talking about all these China in a very big and very I would say quite a negative image. I think I mentioned something in the documentary during the interview, and I want to re-emphasize it. I said, China is a huge country. It's a country with a long history. You have 5,000 years China, which is full of histories and cultural. And then you have the 100-year communist China, which a lot of people like to use that as a kind of context. And then you have current President Xi Jinping's 10 years China, and he's going to rule for another term. I just tell a lot of people, like European people, which China you really want to know. Because if you want to do business with China, your focus is a Chinese market. So maybe you need to know more and focus on a 5,000 years China in a bigger sense, instead of 10 years Xi Jinping China or 100 years communist China. So my tip is, again, we are living in a very, very polarized world, and being a journalist in the past, I think today I have a very, very negative view about media, because media in the past is supposed to bring like investigation, tell the truth, to show things as it is. But today media is driven by opinion, driven by statements, driven by those hashtags. So I would say for people who want to do business with China, or want to, for example, you want to sell products to China, or you want to, I still think that China is the biggest consumer market for all kind of products. Well, I guess that's as also a university researcher, we always say you need to do qualitative and quantitative research. So do a research that is even maybe academic type of research, instead of reading really, really like holistic, but also very vague and big reports about because many reports or many media reports it doesn't really show how the market it is. So number one is do your own research, tailor-made research.
Mm-hmm.
And also the second is look into the nuances. Nuances that will include, okay, if you have a specific go-to-market plan, if you have a specific segmentation plan, focusing on those. And all these big media reports, if they are important for your strategy development, then you just put it aside as a checklist, but don't completely blindly rely on media reports and do your own research. Yeah.
It's really great tips, Bei. Thank you for this interview. Really, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I think it's like I said in the beginning, it's a very nice opportunity because I'm very glad that you asked the question about my personal life, because this has a huge impact on how I develop business and also making decisions. So yeah, really great. And I hope this will help people to also maybe have some as some sharing experience, or maybe sharing views. Like I said, my son gave me a very special lens. Maybe through this podcast, you also get some extra interesting lens from me. So that's what I want to say to the audience. Yeah.
Thank you, Bei. Sure. I think people will really get a very interesting lens, and also this inspirational journey of you will also give a lot of people inspiration to navigate their lives. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope we can talk to each other again, and next time. I still have a lot of questions to ask you, but we are going to wrap up today. And how people can connect with you, Bei, if they want to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I'm very active on LinkedIn. I also have Instagram, but LinkedIn is the place that I try to use more, because social media today get a little bit chaotic. So I guess LinkedIn is the most efficient, and still for me is relatively like direct place. So yeah, find me on LinkedIn.
Okay. And on LinkedIn, your name Bei Wang, and also I think your StraightFire, and also you have a personal website and with beiwang.com. .nl. Okay, so people can also find everything you do and in all kinds of industries, and also your role in education. Please connect with Bei if you want to have a chat with her after this podcast. Thank you very much, Bei, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again.
Yes, and have a lovely day.
Thank you very much for listening. If this podcast is valuable to you and your business, please subscribe and help me by sharing this podcast with more people. You can also go to check out my websites for more information and interesting stories about China. I hope these stories will give all of us insights, ideas, and inspiration to create a more connected world together.